let's talk about diet for a minute. Fasting. Now this is Tilden again. It is a crime to feed anything to the sick. Remember that old saying, feed a cold, starve a fever? That's wrong. It's starve a cold, starve a fever. If it's a child, your child usually has a cold or fever because of the trash you bought him at the supermarket and allowed him to eat. All that ice cream, all that Coke, all those donuts, the sugary cereals, the chocolate nuts and all that stuff, sugar pops and all that stuff, and the milk that you're pouring down his throat. So when he does get sick, cold, flu, whatever you want to talk about, do not force chicken soup down his throat. Don't force anything down his throat except water. Maybe a little dilute orange juice. Don't feed him unless he asks for it. When he's hungry, he'll tell you. His body, his little body, is already overwhelmed by all the man-made non-foods you have bought for him and put in front of him and allowed him to eat. It's trying to somehow struggle and metabolize that, get that arranged, survive in his little body. He doesn't need any other food. He needs to heal. He needs to fast. No food should be given until all symptoms are gone, and then only fruit and vegetable juices. So then you come back into it really slow. You don't say, oh, he's fine now, here's a glazed donut, and go right back into it. Let him build his immune system. The definition of nutrient foods is a nutrient food has all the vitamins, minerals, and enzymes contained in itself necessary for its complete breakdown, metabolism, and uptake by the cells of the body. That's a nutrient food. What is a processed food? As we said, a processed food is one which has had all the enzymes scientifically removed from it and has had these preservative additives mixed in with it in order to maximize its shelf life. I remember one time I was out at the horses. One Saturday I was out at the horses, and this little girl, she was eating, a bag of pretzels, right? She's eating a bag of pretzels, and she puts the bag of pretzels down under a tree, and then she goes off to brush her horse, and then she just forgot about the pretzels and just let them lie there. So a week later I came back, and I was just bringing my horse in, and I see the bag of pretzels down there, and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I hadn't eaten breakfast or lunch. I was like absolutely starving, so I reached down, and now this is an open bag of pretzels, right? And I look in there, and they look pretty good, and I take one, and it's pretty good. This, it's still crunchy. It tastes perfect. And it's like, did you ever ask yourself why there aren't any cockroaches or bugs in that? It's because that's hydrogenated food. No self-respecting beetle would think twice about it. He knows there's no nutrition for him in that, They last forever. Perpetual shelf life. That's what we're talking about. When you're in Hollywood and you see actors at all the sidewalk cafes and you see people really take care of themselves, or just people who know they don't eat this trash at all, because they're really trying to make it. They're really trying to become something, and this glow, this inner glow, is something that you can't fake. And hydrogenated foods and sugar, refined carbohydrates kills that. It kills the life force. They know it instinctively. Their body is their instrument. So if you forget what the NewWest Diet is, here's the short version. Ready? You already know this. For 60 days, you're going to take no white sugar, no white flour, no pasteurized dairy, no milk, cheese, butter, ice cream, yogurt, none, and no hydrogenated oils. Now the hydrogenated oils, we're going to start reading some labels, so you're going to realize that it's in everything, and so that it's difficult to do that. So as many of you know, the NewWest Diet is a very simple diet. I divided it into 4 categories. So please click on the NewWest Diet button, and you're going to get this. I'll do a really quick review of this. The 4 categories are unrestricted foods, some moderation, rarely, and not in this lifetime. In the NewWest Diet, for 60 days, we're going to only do categories 1 and 2. So I'm going to give you the short version of this. Raw fruits and vegetables, preferably organic, Good water, 1 to 2 liters.
Now, I have a chapter on the website entitled Water, in which I evaluated all the various alkalizers and water filters. And at this point, I finally come to realize that the best water that you can get is available in your local grocery store these days in the form of excellent spring water from some of the best sources on earth. And that includes Voss water from Norway, Eternal water from New Zealand, and Icelandic water from Iceland. So just make sure you drink between 1 and 2 liters of the best water you can get every day.
Fruit and vegetable juices. Preferably, of course, the best thing is if you squeeze them, but we don't have time to do that. So Adwala and Nega juice, they're not bad. You know, in Whole Foods, Adwala now has a competitor, and it's organic, and it's called Evolution. Have you seen that? It's expensive. It's like $10 a quart for orange juice, but it's organic. We always want organic if possible, right? Selected nutritional herbs, that's like green drinks. It's like spirulina, chlorella, blue-green algae, or high-end Chinese herbs, nutritional grade herbs. Don't get tricked on these. Some of them are really good food sources. The best one I know of actually is David Sandoval. He is an expert, and he's in Long Beach. He has a food called Best of Greens, the best green food I know of, and it's not even expensive. And then he also has the highest end whole food vitamin C. It's called Amla Plus. Generally, I'm not into vitamin supplements per se, but if you are, that's two of the high end ones. Beans and rice, one of your cleanest, complete protein sources. Beans and brown rice. Category 2, with some moderation, organic meats. Okay, so there again, the closer to filet mignon you go, yeah, that can be good if it's organic and everything, but organic turkey and chicken are easier to break down, but there again, beans and rice can give you all the complete proteins you need. Raw dairy. Now, if you have access to raw dairy, everything pejorative I say about pasteurized dairy does not pertain to raw dairy, so feel free. Eggs are fine, so forget everything you read on Mercola or Natural News about the cholesterol in eggs. Cage-free, free-range eggs, those are fine. Here's your new salad dressing, either lemon juice or balsamic vinegar. No vinaigrette. Why not? Because vinaigrette contains oil. Exactly. Grilled or raw fish. Okay, so I went through this whole examination of EFA supplements and everything.
Wesson A. Price tells us that the healthiest people who ever lived, they didn't take EFA supplements. They got the best fats from grilled fish and from raw fish. So we can do the same. My opinion is eliminate the middleman. So in the 60-day program, we should have fish at least 4 times a week. My other advice is get to know the manager or supervisor of the fish department at Whole Foods.
Those guys are really smart. They really know a lot. And
I found out that if you have a fear of farm-raised fish at your local supermarkets, that doesn't really apply at Whole Foods.
Did you know that Whole Foods farm fish, for example, they have farms in South America and also in Oregon, but they are cages that are 300 feet below the surface.
I found out something else about local supermarkets like Safeway. They feed their farm-raised fish a diet of 100% genetically modified soy, whereas Whole Foods feeds their farm-raised fish a natural diet of algae. This is a major difference. And yes, of course, there's always the danger of contamination from various heavy metals and radiation and other pollutions in the ocean. But my opinion is that the advantages we can get from the primary essential fatty acids from fish, which is our primary source, far outweighs the risk of toxification from the poisons that may or may not be in that particular part of the ocean where you caught the fish. So just use common sense. Obviously, these days, I think it's safer in general to buy fish that are Atlantic caught than Pacific caught for a number of reasons. But still, we cannot overestimate the value of essential fatty acids that we derive directly from fish.
That's my advice for getting your EFA requirements, especially for vaccine damaged kids or any kid, because kids are primarily building their central nervous neurology, right? And they need EFAs for that. Clean soups, that means you made them from scratch, not out of a can. No canned foods.
Whole grains. Whole grains have been a staple of some of the healthiest people who have ever lived on Earth, according to Weston A. Price and others. There is a lot of wrong information thrown around today, especially in the area of gluten. And we have this ridiculous phenomenon today of entire aisles of gluten-free foods, even though many of them are very processed and may be loaded with sugars and hydrogenated oils. Just because something is labeled gluten-free does not necessarily make it a nutrient food. Integral grains, including wheat, rice, quinoa, etc., may be included in the 60-day program. If you have a real sensitivity to gluten, you might want to stay with oil-free rye and potato breads. But remember, whole grains are an important source of vitamin E and vitamin B, and as I said, have been a staple of some of the healthiest people who have ever lived.
Okay, so that may seem like a very confining list, but within those categories, there's a lot of latitude in there. Okay, now we come into the rarely, but in the 60-day program, this is out of the question. Processed cheese, commercial pizza, canned foods, alcohol, refined carbohydrates, pasteurized dairy, cooking oil, seeds and nuts. Okay, so here's the thing, the short version.
So in the 60-day program, there are no seeds, no nuts, and no oils. First of all, no seeds. Why no seeds? Because we are trying to clear out the digestive tract with our daily intake of 9 enzyme capsules. And seeds have enzyme inhibitors within them to keep them from sprouting. So at the same time that we're doing an enzyme program to clear the tract and to clear the blood, does it sound like a good idea to take in a bunch of seeds which have enzyme inhibitors built into them? So no seeds for 60 days.
No nuts, because even though raw nuts have some food value,
they are very dense and require a lot of energy in order to metabolize and digest. So we're doing everything we can to clear out the digestive tract, so we don't want to add anything that's going to further clog things up or inhibit the clearance of the digestive tract. And while we're mentioning this, another thing that we cannot have during the 60 days is popcorn, because popcorn also has a tendency to clog the digestive tract.
And the same thing with oils. No cooking oils, no salad dressing oils. The only oils you can have in the 60-day are supplement oils like cod liver oil, flaxseed oil, evening primrose.
And with all these,
a little bit of it as a supplement oil are fine, but nothing on your salad dressing. No oils as salad dressing.
And no cooking oil.
So a lot of people are discovering that they'll use water in a wok and just cook at a lower temperature, and that, okay, and then this is absolutely out of the question. Clogging foods, soft drinks, potato chips, French fries, right, donuts, hydrogenated oil snacks, which is like everything, margarine, mayonnaise, hold the mayo forever, diet soft drinks, diet anything. I mean,
I can't believe that in this day and age, people still haven't figured this out. They say, oh, give me a diet root beer, And the illusion there is I want to watch my waistline. I don't want to gain weight. So I'm going to have a diet root beer instead of a root beer. Hey, this thing has aspartame in it. I mean, read the chapter on aspartame on my website. It is definitely not a theory. It is definitely carcinogenic. So the diet soda eventually causes metaplasia in the body. So if the choice comes up between having a diet root beer or a regular root beer, choose the regular root beer. That's just going to make you fat and give you diabetes, whereas the diet root beer is really going to give you cancer.
NutraSweet Aspartame Splenda. So I have a whole chapter on, it's called Sugar, the Sweet Thief of Life. You know, this is another amazing thing. Back when 2001, when Eric Schlosser wrote Fast Food Nation, remember that book? He used the statistic that was accurate at that time.
5% of the American population was type 2 diabetic back in 2001. Now, type 2 diabetic means that you did it. You weren't born like that. You earned it. You chose it by your lifestyle.
Okay, by 2011, that figure was up to 10%. 10% of the population is type 2 diabetic by 2011, according to CDC. And their prediction is that by 2030, 30% of the population will be type 2 diabetic. Again, we are not on schedule for that. We are not on track for that. We are ahead of schedule. That is really happening. Soy in any form and coffee. Don't have time to explain that for now. Look on my site. Here's another reason why no oils, unregulated labeling. Just because it says something on the label, it doesn't mean it. Even if it weren't, even if it's the most natural extra virgin olive oil, for this 60 days, just give your tract a break. It's really dense for your digestive system to break it down. We're trying to clear the tract, so we're trying to stay water soluble just for 60 days. Yeah, that's the other thing. The likelihood of when you're cooking with oils,
that you might heat the oil up to the point where you would create trans fatty acids. And that's what makes up
hard fats, plaques, and cellulite, all that. And it's unnecessary. You don't need it. At least for 60 days, you don't need it. Okay, so like I said, when I said fruits and vegetables, it's a broad interpretation. Are lentils okay? Yes, of course. Beans okay? Okay. Legumes, yeah. Pickles, if they're done right, yeah, all these are fine. Preferably organic, but just do the best you can. Organic. And I was just down at, God bless you, I was down at CalGem like 3 weeks ago, right? So I met a guy, he was an organic blueberry farmer and from back east. And he was really explaining to me what organic was. I was kind of mistaken about this. I kind of had the wrong idea. But again, organic is one of these words that most of us use and we really don't know what it means unless you really do organic gardening or you studied it, you know. And so what he told me is that, of course, it has no herbicides and no pesticides. Of course, we know that at the very least. But he said it's that you are monitored by someone who's going to inspect your land to see that you have an active system of returning organic matter to the soil, whether it's garbage or cuttings from your crops or something that's going to increase
the biological activity of the soil.
If you can demonstrate that you have an ongoing system for putting life back into the soil, then you maintain your organic certificate. In a handful of rich soil, there should be as much living organisms in that soil as dirt. And those organisms, they will subsist on the rhizomes of the roots and introduce minerals into the plant.
But the label organic does not necessarily mean that there is any specific level of minerals in the soil. There is no required level of minerals in the soil. And this is the reason why it's so necessary to take mineral supplementation, as we will see.
Okay, pasta sauces. I usually have some here, but I didn't buy any. But most pasta sauces have sugar as like the number 3 ingredient, and also they're loaded with oils, many of which are hydrogenated oils. Yeah, other like a ton of other chemicals and fake vitamins. So number 1, you want the shortest ingredient list, just as a general rule. And recently I discovered even at Safeway, there's not bad pasta sauce. It's Del Grasso. Did anyone ever see that or hear of that? There's really nothing that I can see that's wrong with that. It's not bad. I was really surprised to see it at Safeway. But most of them, like Prego, and what's the other one? Ragu, yeah, it's like the low end of all of it.